How did we do? That was up to teacher to assess, so they went off into a bit of a huddle, talking about something I couldn't understand, but it sounded like my future was at stake. A little matchmaking and an engagement ensued. M, my master-to-be, made an announcement to his friends, and I woof-woofed it all around the kennels. Ceremony and honeymoon. And so a date was set for M to come to our centre, and I expected a bit of ceremony. Instead of walking me down the aisle, teacher led me down a corridor and into a bedroom where M waited. Then, with minimum of ceremony, my lead was handed over to M with the words, "She is your responsibility from now on." You should have seen the look on M's face. Then he was given some basic instructions. Most important of all for me was the issue of how and when I should be fed. Mind you, I was well capable of keeping him reminded on that front. We were then left alone for a few hours to begin the bonding process, as we were now a unit. After sleeping the night in his room, next day the honeymoon began. For the following 3 weeks we would explore the sights of Ballincollig, Cork. Firstly, I had to get the measure of him, and I perceived from his reactions and touch that he'd had previous dog friends. But I would teach him a thing or two. After all, I am a guide dog. This was my patch, where I knew all the routes, and with teacher tagging along behind, we only had to work on M. By the end of 3 weeks, teacher deemed it safe to let us off together into the wide world of the University of Life. Home Sweet Home. I was to move to a new home in Bray, on the east coast, a very long way from both my human and doggy friends. Would I be lonely or homesick? Indeed, I was both. I missed all my pals and familiar walks, but not the kennels, which I never liked. Despite M trying to be ever so kind, I pined for the familiar and even lost weight. But after a few days, life began to come into fresh focus as I explored my new home. This was up 2 flights of stairs, one outside the house and one inside. So I began to have fun, simply bounding up and down them, except, of course, when my harness was on, when I know I must go slowly. Home is on a busy road that we often cross, and I have to leave this up to M. At the front gate he simply says, "Find the curb," which I do, and then stop. M listens for traffic, and on his command, "Forward," I start across, trusting him that all is safe. I can handle stationary vehicles fine, but moving ones are unpredictable, at least to my doggy brain. Or maybe it's the behaviour of humans behind the wheel. I take M to the opposite footpath, and I automatically turn to our usual direction, but if he says left or right, I will do just that. Humans seem amazed that I can work out left and right, considering there are times when we are passengers in a car, with M directing the driver, having to use terms like my side or your side to get the desired result. On returning home from that side of the road, I take him along the footpath until I come opposite home and turn to the right, stopping at the curb. Here I allow M and his hearing to take over, while I await the forward command. As it is a busy road, it sometimes seems like this takes forever, especially as I am anticipating the treat I always get at the gate, which is M's way of saying thank you for getting him home safely. Bonding. This happened very quickly as we got to know one another. I overheard teacher telling M that I am an emotionally needy dog. The cheek of him. I am just very affectionate and sociable and love humans, especially when they greet me, often ignoring M altogether, being caught up instead with admiring me. But I do love to follow M around everywhere for large parts of the day. I sometimes hear the question, "Does she not get under your feet?" Well, not really, as we are both fairly nimble and learned quickly how to anticipate each other. I did have to educate him about going through doors so I don't get caught on the wrong side, or in a closing door. I love to lick his hands, a behaviour that humans don't seem to have figured out yet. Is this because of taste or affection? We still keep that a doggy secret. But when my harness is put on, I have a change of personality, switching to work mode. I know I am responsible for M's safety, so I calm my frisky spirit and prepare to obey his commands. With the handle down on my back, I am on call for work, but the moment he takes up the handle, I am on duty. With the harness off, I do the usual doggy things. For instance, in the house, I scatter my toys around the floor for M to trip over. They tell me he can't see, but I don't understand that. I have eyes and can see, so what is not seeing like? I just do the things I have been trained to do. Some humans ask whether it is fair to make a dog work like this, but I don't mind, as my reward is spending nearly all waking hours with my favourite human. He takes me virtually everywhere with him, work or no work, and I love that. Besides, the total work hours aren't huge. Seems a fair deal to me, as many dogs spend long hours on their own. Out and about. Our most frequent route is the 1.5 kilometres to the town, and as we leave home I eagerly respond to the left command, as it is my preferred walk. I keep M safely on the footpath, which I can do irrespective of whether he or I are next the curbside. As for poles and obstacles, M doesn't even know he has passed them, unless I have had to make a very noticeable deviation. Do I ever make a mistake? Occasionally I drift a little into autopilot and brush his right arm against something. I'm always on his left. On these occasions I get pulled up abruptly, turned back, and made to do it again, just to keep me sharp. There was one occasion in a difficult situation where I had to make too many decisions in a split second for my doggy brain, and I walked him into a pole. He was not pleased. I think he understood, as the scolding was mild, but he still trusts me implicitly. At junctions, if there is a defined curb or tactile paving, I stop there and await my next instruction. On the forward command, I take him safely to the other side and go straight on, unless he tells me otherwise. As we continue, I like to hear the words straight on occasionally as reassurance that I am going where he wants. But junctions vary a lot, and he talks me through these. White lines, what are they for? Sometimes there, sometimes not, and erratic, so I just ignore them. I also respond to keep over and keep in. See if you can work these out. On the trip downtown, I am always on my best behaviour, as it is so familiar. I adjust my speed to whatever M desires, and I get lots of praise for good work. Once on the main street or in a new environment, I usually get a bit excited at having so many interesting things to see and smell. I then begin to tug on my harness, resulting in M's restraining pull on my nose strap, as well as the repeated command, "Steady," one I don't always willingly obey. I am still young and curious, and worst of all is my attraction to other dogs. My doggy instinct overrules all my training, and I make for my fellow canine with sniffs, hellos, or even growls. My nose strap tightens severely as M restrains me, but all the discomfort in the world is no deterrent. I am dragged past, and it takes 25 metres or so for my adrenaline to subside. I know I shouldn't, but I can't help it. As I get older, maybe I will get some sense and become less easily distracted. I hope so anyway, as does M. Since living with M, I have had some new experiences, like aeroplane travel, regular bus trips, and attending church, places where dogs aren't usually allowed. Toileting. Many humans seem curious how this works. With M being blind, how does he see what I am doing? Or, more importantly, where? And how does he clean up, they ask. Of course, when I pee, that doesn't cause any problem, just so long as I do it outdoors, which I do. But there is the other business. The posh term is spending, And at the other end of the scale there is a rude word that we don't use. We go mid-range and call it pooping.